As much as we cover the entertainment side of the world, Hollywood's film and television industry, gaming is becoming the new big battleground in the fight against DEI and quote unquote woke. And even though some folks out there that may be regulars to this channel are not always interested in what's going on in the gaming world, I encourage you to watch this video all the way through because you're not going to believe some of the things that is going on now with one of the biggest franchises of the last 10 years, namely Pokémon Go. Recently, the game creator of this, licensing it from the Pokémon company, a company called Niantic, has made some pretty radical changes to people's characters and avatars in the game that they have spent years, and in some cases, a great deal of money building. And a lot of them woke up one morning earlier this week to find, well, things had changed for the worse. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell. Share this sucker out on the social medias. And of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Join us every Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern right here for the live show. We've got one for you today, folks, and I know what everybody's wondering. Why the hell is VR talking about Pokémon Go? I mean, I know we've been getting into some gaming stuff recently, but this seems off the rails even for me, but it's really not. It ties into the larger conversation that we've been having here on Valiant Renegade for the last several years. It's not just about the left's destruction of Hollywood, film and television, entertainment in general. It also bleeds over into the gaming community. And we've seen things recently, like with Star Wars Outlaws. We talked about this in a recent video and on the Sunday live show last week. But now, Pokémon Go, one of the biggest gaming franchises from one of the biggest, if not the biggest, anime franchise of all time, is now diving headfirst into this. And joining me today for the first time here on Valiant Renegade is somebody who knows a thing or two about Pokémon Go. Please help me welcome Savvy. Good to see you. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. I'm glad to have you here. So you've been playing Pokémon Go for a while. Tell me about your experience with the game, how long you've been playing it, and your general thoughts, at least up to this point today.
Yeah, so I was actually a day one player and live streamer. I was also one of the individuals who helped other live streamers set up mobile streaming back before the big products came out. I helped people set up the mobile hotspots, how to move around, how to stream to a secondary PC, that kind of thing. And then since then, I've played on and off. I will admit, over the past 2 years, though, Pokemon Masters has replaced my mobile addiction for a Pokemon game. But anytime I travel, I log into Pokemon Go.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Well, you sound like
I've
you've
been
been
around for a
very,
while.
very involved in it. I mean, going deeper than just probably most gamers. And to that end, we got some updates recently, or at least Pokemon Go got some updates recently. And, let's bring in some images here. Of course, our friend Grums out there has been covering this tremendously. We've had Cabrutus on the show, who's the gentleman who started Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. New website launching, folks, very soon. I've seen the cut of it. Cabrutus sent it to me. DEI Detected is coming very soon. I think it might have been today or tomorrow. We'll keep you posted on that. But this is what we're talking about. And it's one of those updates that seems like, what was the point of all of this, right? And once again, it seems like we're trying to erase gender once again. Talk to us about what's on the screen right now, Savvy.
So they've, for whatever reason, decided to break down the concept of male and female bodies and instead meshing them into one. If you go through the character customization, you no longer choose between male or female. You don't even choose really between body type 1, body type 2, and then go from there. They just present you with a series of 5 short hairstyles, 5 medium, and 2 long. And then you go over to the faces. There's 7 selections. And then you go over to the body types. You are given, I think there's about 7 of them, and then there's also a custom slider where you can have a couple of toggles, but they don't really allow for enough customization like every single other Pokemon game.
Yeah, and you did a video on this showing you experimented with your own customization and showed the drawbacks, the extreme drawbacks of the new system. And for everybody watching right now, what you're looking at here is on the right to left of each of these samples. I want everybody to pay attention to what you're seeing here. Like this image right here that my cursor is swirling. Look at the shape of the female body. It looks natural, does it not? There is curve. There is curvature around the waist to the hips. And then you look over here, the same person's avatar who played this character yesterday, today, woke up to this character with a flattened, a profile, no curvature, basically no hips. And it goes across the board from one to the next. You see this down here, kind of the same thing, flattening. Look at the girl at the bottom right here with the purple accents, strong curvature, strong female body type, very, very recognizable, and now flattened out. The male and female characters have, I'll coin a phrase here, been androgenized to each other. I mean, there is no distinction anymore. And it seems to me that this has kind of become somewhat of the norm. And to give people, additional examples here, and we'll get to this in a minute. This is the Pokemon Go Twitter that posted this update today. The responses to this are absolutely hilarious. Stay tuned there. But here's another one. Let's talk about this update here. It's so great that we can see androgynous crotch now. So is this your character, Savvy, now? Or no?
Oh, goodness. I could never. It's frightening because there was obviously zero quality control.
No.
There are certain poses and animations that actually, if you wear the skirt, she poses, the legs clip through, and the crotch becomes very apparent. These are base level quality tests that were not done, which tells me that either this was rushed or Niantic truly has dropped the ball and they just do not care. Which, if you're dealing with one of the largest, if not the largest franchise in the world, why would you ever do that to your parent company? Do you want to lose your contract?
And that's just it. And you brought up a point. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about Niantic. Niantic is the game developing company that makes Pokemon Go, who has licensed Pokemon from the original creator to do these games, right?
Yeah. So what they did was they produced the geolocation software that they've also used for other games, and they've attempted to set it up with also non-popularized franchises, but those always flop. Their
Mhm.
only success really is Pokemon, and that's because the Pokemon Company took a big gamble on them, but Niantic has a history since 2017 of making poor choices and upsetting the player base. But because it's Pokemon, people still go back and play. They're not playing because it's Niantic. They're not playing because Niantic makes good choices. They're playing
Right.
because they want to catch Pokemon.
That's just it. And this is another example here to make it even more readily apparent. This is another user of the game that posted this on Twitter today. Again, look at the image on the left. This is pre-update. And the image on the right is post-update. Look at the curvature. It's been erased. The femininity has been erased. The chest has been flattened somewhat. Look at the legs. Look
It's
at
wrong.
the hips.
It's
And
just
and
wrong.
and you're actually a professional artist, Savvy. So you know
Mhm.
this stuff.
Oh, yes, yes. Not a single individual has a torso like that that ends abruptly with little stick legs that jut out like that. If you compare to some of the arms and the way that the bone structure is, it again is just completely wrong. Even the way that the arms are bending at the elbows, it
Mhm.
looks like very lazy topology. And again, they just did not care about the quality of their work.
No, and to be clear, Savvy, users woke up to this morning, right? They didn't
Mhm.
they didn't change their avatar. They didn't get an option to do. They just woke up and they went from what you see on the left that they had built however many years before when they started playing this game to
Mhm.
what you see on the right, which you went from a very feminine looking appearance facially and in the whole body physique to what you see on the right, which looks like maybe somebody that works at the Bippity Boppity Boutique in Disneyland, Anaheim, California.
Well,
Um,
it's even actually worse than that. So they did a selective trial over the past, I think, month it was.
mhm.
And for the people who did receive the updated avatars, it was all negative feedback. There was not a single instance of praise across Twitter, across 4chan, across forums. People were confused, but the news hadn't really spread. So there were a lot of people who didn't know the change was coming. So when
Right.
you go and look at Japanese Twitter, for example, there's a lot of people who were caught off guard. And the general response is, what happened? Where is my cute character?
Right, because this didn't just affect the US, this affected
Mm-mm.
every player. Every player.
Mhm.
But let's look at this real quick, Savvy, on that. Why did this happen? Oh, my Lord. Well, here we go. This is Niantic. This is the company that produces and manages the Pokemon Go game, right?
Mhm.
This is their diversity and inclusion page. Now, Savvy, you've read through this. You've broken this down. Tell us a little bit about what's here.
Yeah, so this is on Niantic's actual page, and they dedicate an entire section to all of their various diversity and inclusion sponsorships and events and things that they do. They are a San Francisco based company, so naturally it would be something that they value. Um, while the idea of it, of course, I'm sure comes from a good place, I think what they've done is actually regressed inclusion and diversity by making everyone look the same. They also, I don't know when this happened, but they do have an activist style consultant group who lists Niantic as their partner. It's called Gamer X, but
Yes.
I
Well,
don't I
and
don't know if
let's
they mentioned them on this page.
I don't think they do. And let's be clear, Savvy, for the folks at home. Would you please spell the name of that company, GamerX?
Yes, it's GAYMERX.
GAY, Gamer X,
Mhm.
is the consulting company, another sweet baby type. But if you look here, the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and here's the new one, Savvy, belonging.
Yes, that is
We've
recently updated.
Yes, it is. Helps us give meaning to the word together in our mission as we build the real world metaverse. We must ensure that diverse perspectives are reflected, that our products both reach and positively impact as many people on the planet as possible. The problem is that it seems to me, as you just clearly stated, Savvy, I think you're right. They have eliminated diversity in this because now everybody looks the same. Women don't look like women. Men still kind of sort of look like men, but not really. Let me give you another example, and this one hits a little closer to home. I had a conversation on the phone today with my daughter who's in college. I've talked about her on the show before. And I mentioned, I was like, hey, she's like, oh, we just played Pokemon Go, my friend and I, a few days ago. We hadn't played it in a while. I
Oh
said,
no.
turn on your app and tell me what you see. Now,
Oh
I've
no.
I've blotted this out obviously to protect my daughter and her username, so this is what the red lines are. This is what happened.
Oh.
Now, I can tell you that the image that you see on the left, that is my daughter's avatar pre-update. That was on a loading screen where she was playing with her friend. But again, you can clearly see, and I didn't notice this in any of the images that Grums had posted. First of all, she has a natural feminine shape, curvature to the body, hips, and you look on the right, and the curvature's gone, the hips are gone. The skirt is gone, Savvy. On the left, she's wearing a skirt. She woke up today, and now she's wearing flat shorts. So again, and I will
Hmm.
say that the girl on the left, in terms of physique, it represents my daughter pretty well. I mean, that's pretty much what she looks like. I mean, if she were an anime character. So this now comes out on the right, and I'm like, she's like, it looks different, but what is it? It's like, doesn't look that different. I'm like, I told her, I said, look at this, look at that. And then I showed her the other pictures from online, and she's like, oh, weird. So, I mean, that's where that went to. But as an example, but there was a lot of Twitter stuff out there. I want to get to some of these Twitter posts, but I want to pull up a couple of other things for people to understand. And then I want to talk about what financial impact I think this might have, because I didn't realize how big Pokemon Go was. I mean, I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was that big. We've talked about this one. Let me pull this up real quick. This is Star Wars Outlaws, right? Everybody's been railing on this the last week. We have a female protagonist, another Star Wars female protagonist. Again, a franchise that Disney spent billions of dollars to acquire for the boys, I might remind folks, which they immediately pivoted and went to the Force as female, and we got this very unattractive looking thing. And people out there on Twitter say, oh, well, I don't need to be sexually attracted to a video game character. It's not about sexual attraction. It's about being appealing to look at it. If you're going to get gamers who are still mostly men to sit down and spend hours playing video games, they want a little eye candy. They don't need to be sexually attracted, but there is a difference, a marked difference between them playing a character that they find uninteresting or unattractive versus one that they do find attractive. They'll spend more time playing the game.
Well, and there's another key point to make to that too, is just because you find something attractive, it doesn't mean that you are sexualizing it.
Exactly.
Beautiful things exist in the world, and you don't need to put your pee-pee in it.
Right, exactly. And here's another one, Savvy. Take a look at this. And the reason I'm pulling this in is because look at what we just talked about with Pokemon Go. Look at the shape of this allegedly female character. Looks like she's had a double mastectomy. She has no breasts. She has no curvature to her body when you see the shots of her walking. She's just straight up and down. It looks like this is something that's widespread in the gaming industry. And if you're thinking it's just the one character, well, here's another one for you. This is another female character in the same game, Star Wars Outlaws. It looks like a young black woman, shaved head, made to look, again, in my opinion, very androgynous, much like a boy, flat-chested, not very feminine physique.
Yeah, if you go back to KVS too, so they tried to sell that they had a model that they referenced it off of.
Yeah.
But what they did was they completely changed her bone structure. I did a pretty decent breakdown, but even just her cheekbones, they've been altered. Her nose was altered. Her chin
Yeah.
was altered. Her
She's got
eye
a
shape
cleft
was
chin.
altered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed. It's just it's almost to the point of being comical, I think. But what's
tragic.
really it is, and what I find to be probably even more fascinating is this is not just us talking, is it? This is a lot of folks talking out there on Twitter. If I go back here to the Pokemon Go, let's look at some of these responses here, Savvy. This is where they announced in the last 24 hours, trainers, your avatar can now even look more like you, to which the internet then incinerated Pokemon Go and the game creator. And again, look at the bow-legged female character here. I mean, it wasn't just one, but as you can see, your comments are here. But we scroll down, people bring this up. Maybe people make jokes about maybe you can buy your old avatar back, and everything else. We've seen, look, some of the other avatars here. Again, look at the distinction. People had this design yesterday for their avatar. They woke up this morning, and it had been changed to this thing, this amorphic blob.
It's just annoying. And my favorite part though is all the women ripping it apart. It's not
Yeah.
just men, so they can't spin this. It is women because women statistically enjoy cute things. Even I succumb to it. I like to make avatars look cute. I don't need it to look like me. I don't want it to look like me. I just
Mhm.
want something cute, especially alongside my Pokemon in the Pokemon world. Things are just cute. It's a cute game.
Yeah. And I mean, look at this. Another great example. And it's not just the
Mhm.
body, Savvy. Look at the face. Tell us what happened here with the face on this, that these San Francisco left-wing game designers who, let's be honest, it's San Francisco. They don't even know how to use a toilet in that city because they mistake toilets and sidewalks. They can't distinguish between those two, apparently. What's going on here with the face?
Well, they've continued to mistake where to go to the bathroom because they took a dump on her face. They they've just I don't understand why they attached the eyebrows, the eye shapes, and the mouth all to the face selector as well, because all of the other Pokemon games, they don't do that. You can change your eyebrows and eyes individually, so it
Mhm.
actually reduces customization as well. But they've changed the way the jaw works, the anatomy just isn't right, and all of the skin tones too are incredibly washed out. It doesn't matter what color you select.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And let me ask, here's the $1 million question, Savvy, because you actually tried to do this. If you wake up today and your avatar suddenly has gone from looking like a cute, natural female figure to what you see on the right, can you fix it?
No. No, you can't.
No.
Even if
No.
you max out the hip slider, where it's sliding it is unnatural and it doesn't affect the waist area because obviously for the people who may not realize this with anatomy, but underneath a woman's ribs, there is an indent. There is a slight, it goes in. It's more so than a man's, and the man's is more straight, which is what we're
Mhm.
seeing on the avatars. They all have a torso built like a log. I used to joke about having a body type like that, and I do have to praise Pokémon Go and all these other companies because they've made me really appreciate just how curvy I am.
Well,
So,
you
at least they're
you
doing that right.
you can also throw some appreciation to this for Niantic and their absolute touting of their 2021 gay gaming professionals honors. But I think we can start to see now what is infecting this type of thing, and the costs to this are going to become pretty bad. Let me go to this page here, and I don't know if you're familiar with some of the revenue figures, at least that have been reported and collected. Niantic is a private company, so unfortunately, unlike when we covered Disney, we can't go pull a public U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, 10K or
Mhm.
8K or quarterly report, whatever. But let's talk about this. In 2021, Pokemon Go raked in $1.2 billion. But what's interesting to look at here is the revenue stats, and this is where things will get interesting. Now we're actually going to talk about what could the actual costs of this diversity, equity, and inclusion, this gender bending, this completely, as I'm more commonly referring to them nowadays, Savvy, is the unforced error baseball term. You look at 2016 when Pokemon Go launched, $551 million in revenue. That dropped a little bit in 17. 18 and 19 picked up 608, 635 million. The chart is wrong. I know it says revenue in billions, BN at the top. That's a mistake. It should be million. 2020 and 2021, no surprise, had a huge spike
Mhm.
for obvious reasons, people being stuck at
Mhm.
home. But then it fell back to nominal levels, 646 and 624. What's truly interesting about this is if we go down here to this next graph, let's look at the player count. The player count in 2016, 232 million when it first launched. Everybody was crazy for it. Huge drop off to 2017, came back up in 18, 19, 20, 2021. So basically, we've seen revenues either climb or after the big years of 2020 and 2021, according to this data from Priori, assuming it's accurate, because, again, this is a private company, so the data is a little bit more difficult to come by. But assuming this is accurate, this shows that while the player base has reduced, the revenues have stayed right about at that low to mid 600 million. That suggests to me that the players that they still have playing the game are the core players that are spending more money per user on average, and that cost, of course, has gone up like everything else in the last few years. What I see now is that if the backlash to this, what we just discussed, may be as harsh as it seems like it might be, you got to realize, what is the actual cost of DEI in this case? If they lose 10% of users, that's over $60 million a year in revenue, average.
Yeah, and the other key thing to note too is so free-to-play players will be the first ones to leave a mobile game because they don't have any stake in doing so. So if they're not happy with it, they just move on. It's the whales that they have to cater to. And if the whales start being unhappy, that's when they have a real problem.
Yeah.
Now, for a game like Pokémon Go, I don't know how whales will feel about the avatar change because Pokémon Go does not have the biggest emphasis on the avatar, but you do spend real money to dress up your avatar.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure what to expect there. In terms of that data as well, I remember there being big stinks raised over the way that they monetized things during the pandemic. And I also remember, I think last year, there was an issue with some of the recent monetization that caused a lot of players to walk away. So they keep making poor choices and keep upsetting the player base.
And this is something that was, it seems, wholly unnecessary. To me, it seems like players were very happy with the avatars that they've created over time. As you just mentioned, a lot of these players have probably spent a lot of money over the years, as you know, many gamers do that enjoy the games they do, even though people complain about microtransactions. Sorry, kids, they actually do work, and they work well for the players who want to do it. But imagine the players that maybe over the years have spent hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars on a game like this, creating and customizing and building out their avatar over the years, to wake up and find it radically altered to where it's now uglier by their eyes than what it was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sad.
I would think a lot of those players might be really pissed off and might be, you know, I'm not going to spend any more money then. And that's what I'm looking at, is like you said, even though they may continue to play the game, those revenues are coming in a great deal, I would imagine. I don't know how much advertising pops up on the game itself, but I mean, imagine a lot of that revenue comes from those actual microtransactions, and that may shut them down. And again, this just goes to show this is why these consultancy groups in this push for this bizarre radical leftist agenda of there is no gender, or there's more than two genders, and all this other garbage and nonsense. It's going to hurt them in the long run because, as you said, a lot of the players that are still playing this game are not in the U.S. They don't subscribe to some of this leftist U.S. dribble. You've got a lot of these Japanese players and Korean players, I'm sure.
Chinese players, especially.
Yeah, Chinese players that woke up this morning and were probably none too happy. And those are the ones that maybe even more so than the U.S. players that will peace out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because they don't like that kind of thing. Again, Pokemon is a very cute game. They know who they're supposed to be catering to. So
Exactly.
for them, the other concerning thing is, why are they making this change? Why are they suddenly going after ESG funding? Because nobody would make this change without needing that kind of funding.
Well,
It just doesn't make sense.
Well, the funding things, and I'll bring this page back up. So, you know, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about ESG, the funding side of things. So what I see typically, and again, a privately traded company is a little bit different than a public one. But that being said, certainly there are 501c3s. They are non-for-profits that do grants and all this kind of stuff that'll hand it out to advance a certain agenda. Some of these 501c3s obviously can be very well funded by some very politically nefarious people. I don't want to name names, but y'all can all take guesses at the kind of people I'm talking about, and maybe even some of the specific names that create this. And we'll hand some money over to these kind of companies. There are things like the ESG scoring system that's now all over the S&P 500, which is disgusting. Has nothing to do with actually making profits or running a company. But they have these ESG scores that allow some of these companies to, in some cases, depending on where they go, acquire financing, leverage, borrowing money, in other words, at a slightly cheaper rate. Maybe they save 20 basis points on the loan price, the interest rate, by having a high enough ESG score. But part of this is, like you said, I think the key is, Savvy, here is Niantic is in San Francisco. This company's probably already steeped in this ridiculous nonsense to begin with. I don't think they had to be dragged into anything. But, I mean, you can see it here by their own page. And I can't wait, Savvy. I can't wait for June, because I expect all of this stuff in gaming to just reach a new fever pitch once we get to Pride Month.
Oh, boy. You mean it's not Pride Month yet? I couldn't tell.
I can't tell either. I said the other day, it's like there's so many gay days now, I've lost count. Every other day is this recognition day, that recognition day. But they have a lot of these. Look at some of the employee resource groups that they have at Niantic. Women and marginalized genders community. That's one. The disability and accessibility community. These are all at Niantic. And I'm not looking at so much the ethnic groups. I'm looking at some of the other ones here. Black diaspora community. What is a black diaspora? It's like different shades of black folks. I don't know what that means.
I have no idea.
LGBTQIA plus community at Niantic. Parents and caregivers community. I don't know how that fits in. But you look at this, look at the sponsored diversity and inclusion events. You look at all these things. They're very, very buried in this stuff. So now they have, and maybe we'll find out soon by the people that own Pokemon that maybe Niantic took a step too far with this, and they might start looking at the contracts they have to see, did we breach a contract here? I don't know. Not a lawyer. I don't know what the contracts say, but certainly the owners of Pokemon have got to have some type of artistic veto power over certain things, I would presume. But
they also know that they're walking a fine line right now, because the reception visually to Scarlet and Violet was not a favorable one. And the quality of their animation work is unfortunately going down. It obviously wasn't enough to tank the sales of Scarlet and Violet, because at its core, it was still a fun game. It still had a good story. It still had compelling characters. But they know that they are at an important crossroads, especially with Pal World and other games now popping up. I feel like they're, and this is just my personal opinion, but their most recent Pokemon Presents, they altered some things. And I think that they delayed some stuff, because they know that they need to reevaluate where they're at and what they're doing. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Seems to be. Well, Savvy, thanks for joining us. Tell folks where they can find you.
Of course, you can find me on X. It is the easiest place to find all of my things, from info dumps to art to just goofy memes. You can find me at Madam Savvy.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.